Hi, I'm Jonathan Tilove. I'm the political reporter with the Austin American-Statesman. We're here at the Texas Capitol on the opening day of the 86th legislature. And we're here with two freshman legislators to talk a little bit about how they got here and what they hope will happen in the next 140 days. We have Erin Zwiener of Driftwood, a Democrat, children's book author who has the seat that was previously held by a Republican. And we have Steve Allison, a Republican from San Antonio, who is filling the shoes of Joe Strauss, not as speaker, but as a representative from his district.
Right.
Something you both have in common is you had to work very hard to get here. You both had primaries, runoffs, and general elections, so very competitive. Maybe beginning with Erin, you can tell me what it was that got you here.
Hard work and a great team of volunteers are why I'm standing here today. There's no replacement for a candidate showing up at folks' doors and asking for their support. And that's what I did over and over and over again. And along the way, I was lucky to be joined by passionate supporters, many of whom are here today to see me be sworn in, who also joined me knocking on those doors and asking folks for support. And I think hard work is essential on the campaign trail, and it's also going to be essential here in the building. I'm really looking forward to this new phase.
Similar story for you, or?
I think very similar. I think we did a lot of hard work. I had an excellent campaign manager, excellent team of volunteers. We block walked extensively throughout the district, and I think that was vitally important. And I was pleasantly surprised how receptive people were to having the candidate or representative of the candidate actually come to their door. I think it was very, very effective, and I think that's what really turned the day. We got a lot of name ID out early. I had a six-person primary, six-candidate primary, and then a runoff, and then a general. We focused more during the primary and the runoff, and made a lot of gain that carried over.
Mm-hmm. So finally, having arrived here, I didn't know kind of what's going through your head and your heart, and whether there are particular expectations or ambitions for this session.
Yeah, I think the issue of this session is public school finance. I know in my district, everyone values their children having a great education, and they're not afraid to have some of their tax dollars go toward that. But at the same time, a lot of folks are really struggling to afford to stay in their homes because of rapidly rising property values and property taxes continuing to carry so much of the burden of our education system. So I'm really hoping that something will meaningfully address this session, and I think the vast majority of my members are joining me in wanting to fight for that.
And how about for you?
I agree that in our district, without question, the top two issues were property taxes and school finance. And I think what's important, I've always seen those two as there being a nexus between property taxes and school finance. You can't address one without addressing the other, because if we look at our tax bills, the highest number, 50 to 53%, is for school taxes. So that is something that I'm cautiously optimistic that the session is going to address properly. And what's really encouraging throughout the campaigns, throughout orientation, throughout meeting with members from both parties, being up here during the summer and seeing committee work, I think there's really a consensus from both parties to address those issues, and I think that's very, very encouraging, and so I'm optimistic going into this session that something's going to be resolved.
And do you see a tension between the two issues, or do you think that they can work in partnership, as resolving one resolves the other? I
certainly believe that. I've always believed that. I don't think there's a tension, not a real tension. I think you have to resolve one to resolve the other, and there's, like I said, a nexus between the two. So I don't see that they're mutually exclusive at all.
Is that sort of your take, or?
Yeah, I agree. Our school districts are caught between a rock and a hard place. The state funding for public education hasn't kept up with population growth or inflation, and so they have two choices: cut services or raise property taxes. Most districts have chosen to do some level of raising property taxes, and many have had to cut services as well. So we can't address one without addressing the other, and I think it's on the state to give our school districts more options by providing some increased funding from our body.
We're at a incredibly polarized moment in the nation's politics, particularly nationally, but seems everywhere, except that Texas, I think the legislature sort of takes pride in being a little bit different, though there were times last session when maybe it took less pride in that, or it didn't seem like it was quite fulfilling that promise. What's your sense of if the Texas House is different than Congress, if politics here is a little bit different, and I suppose, does the word compromise, does that make you cringe, or does it make your heart beat faster with anticipation?
I'm not sure either. It certainly doesn't make me cringe. Doesn't make me cringe, but I'm not sure it makes my heart beat faster either. I don't see anything wrong with appropriate compromise. And I think that's what is made a distinguishing mark between Texas politics and what we've seen in Washington, unfortunately. I think appropriate compromise, reaching consensus is very, very important. And I think Texas has always prided itself on members being able to cross the aisle, so to speak, and really work together to accomplish something for the good of the state. And I'm encouraged that that's going to continue on in this session and distinguishes us from what's going on in Washington.
What do you think?
So I agree that appropriate compromise is important and useful and makes sense in many situations. But where I aspire to is more of a collaborative model. Compromise is giving away half of what you want so that you get half of it, and people sort of meet in the middle. No one's entirely happy. Collaboration is sitting down and talking about what your values are, starting with values instead of with a particular agenda, and figuring out where those values overlap. And that's where and making a decision based on meeting all of those values. That's something I think we have a huge opportunity to do on property taxes and school finance this session. I think everyone's values are lining up there. And I think it's where the Texas House is its best self, is in that collaborative space. But that's an important distinction to me between collaboration and compromise. Compromise works, it's necessary sometimes, but I think we can do better and aspire to collaboration.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here today. I wish you good luck in the next 140 days, and hope people will check in with statesman.com to follow their progress. Thanks.
Great.